And now, the Lowdown, with economist and political strategist Elson Low.
Good evening, and welcome to the Lowdown. It's good to be back here tonight. It's good to be back. We were away for a week or two there. I was out of the country, but it's good to be back. Good to be involved again, and I'm happy to be with you guys here tonight. So as always, we want to say welcome to the Lowdown. I'm your host, Elson Low. So welcome. We always say start your Saturday night on a high with Elson Low. Folks, share that link. Let's try and get the message across. Give as many people as possible access to the message. Let's try and let everyone get a chance to see to see the show tonight. So share that link, folks. Share that link. It's good to be back. It's good to be hanging out with you guys again on Saturday evening. We've got a fun show. I know I always say that it's fun, but that's because it always is fun. We've got actually quite a few memes from our meme of the week segment, which I think you will find very entertaining. We've had some funny things happen over the course of the past few weeks. So we'll run over those things with our meme of the week segment. It's going to be great. It's going to be hilarious, folks. Share that link. Apologies for being a few minutes late this evening, but we're going to have a really action-packed show tonight. It's going to be interesting. We're going to cover, first of all, of course, the meme of the week and some cost of living woes as well. Then we're going to talk a bit about Burnham. Burnham is always an interesting topic. Our former leader, Forbes Burnham. We're going to speak a bit about some of his policies because a lot of them have regained popularity. So it's an interesting time and a topical time to talk about him. And we're going to talk about some of the things that are good takeaways and some of the things we intend to improve upon with economic policy for the PNCR going forward. So we're going to have an interesting chat about Burnham, and then we're going to close off the show. You know, I like to give some general advice on how to position yourself as a younger person in Guyana. We're going to talk a bit about inequality and some of the things that are tied to that in that segment, the last segment of our show tonight. So thank you for joining us. Share that link, folks. Let's try and get everyone in here tonight. It's going to be entertaining. So try and let everyone get a chance to see it. Share that link. So we're going to be talking about former leader Forbes Burnham, a national figure, a flawed genius, someone that is one of the most interesting historical figures in Guyana. We're going to be talking in particular about his economic policies and in a way how those are similar to the economic policies of other leaders around the Latin America and the Caribbean during that time period. And so some of the similar effects we're seeing, similar aspirations. So we're going to talk a bit about that. That'll give, hopefully provide some perspective. Often I find that there's not very good perspective around the former leaders' policies. So it'll be good to get some historical background, historical perspective. So we'll talk about that. I'll give you guys an insight into one of his speeches, which was very interesting, and I think you'll enjoy. And we'll give you a sense of how we can build on those policies and improve on those policies in ways that will benefit Guyanese more broadly. So again, now is a time when some of Burnham's policies have become much more popular. So we want to chat a bit about that. Share the link, folks. Share that link. Let's get everyone here tonight. We're going to have a laugh. We always try to have a laugh. And tonight we've got some good material for you. We've got a lot of interesting things about the cost of living situation. As you know, the oil prices, the gas price, the price at the pump has gone up. But one thing I want to introduce to all my shows, I mentioned it on the Tuesday evening show. So we've got a Tuesday evening show, which is more of a news review show. That's going to be from 7 to 8 on the Coalition's Facebook pages. So keep an eye out for that. we've got a new show. Keep an eye out for that. That's the Lowdown from 7 to 8 issues in the news. We're going to be covering issues in the news. So that'll be on Tuesdays. But on that last, so we started last Tuesday on that first show, we actually discussed a new thing that we want to bring to the show, and that is that we want to always have an oil price check. Every time we go live on the show, we're going to have a quick check as to what the latest oil price is, or within the last day or so, to remind our viewers, and I encourage you to do this every day, that of how much money Guyana is making from the oil and gas industry, and how that is affecting the growth of the country. So today we've got an oil price of just under $120 a barrel. Last Tuesday it was $124 a barrel when we made that check. So the price right now is $120 a barrel. That is a lot of money, folks. A lot of money. That's some of the highest oil prices that we've seen in several years since I believe it's since the 2008 period. We've not seen this many spikes in the oil price. So that's a high oil price, and that's going to mean that as much as you're paying more at the pump, which is unfortunate, the country is making more in terms of the revenue that is being brought in. It's definitely better to be producing oil at $120 a barrel than at $50 a barrel. I'll leave you viewers with that. So that's our oil price check. As I said, we're going to be bringing that into the show every week as an addition to help us to contextualize what's going on in the country at any one point in time. But now we want to jump into well, I'll say one last time: share the link. Let's try and get everyone in. But let's jump in now to some of the memes of the week. But we're going to start off with some of the housing prices that have been posted, the rental prices that have been posted. So let's get the first one up, and we'll have a quick chat about that. Okay, so here we have got a 2-bedroom house. We've got a 2-bedroom house for $1,600 US a month. 320,000 Guyana dollars for a 2-bedroom house. What is that? That's $160,000 per bedroom, if my math isn't incorrect. I don't pretend to be the best mathematician, but I do sometimes know one or two clever tricks. But that's pretty hefty, $160,000. For context, folks, let's recall that minimum wage is about $44,200. So we're looking at a rent per bedroom that's almost 4 times as much as the minimum wage. That's concerning. That's incredibly concerning. But it's by no means the only example. We've covered other examples on this show before, but we've got several tonight to go through. So let's see the next one. Okay, here we've got a 3-bedroom in Kitty for $3,300 US a month. So it's at $660,000. Woof. What's that? 120? 660? Yeah, that's 220. Is it 660? I believe so. Yeah, so that's $220,000 per bedroom, which is a monstrous amount of money. That's a lot of money to be charging for a bedroom. That is difficult. Again, that minimum wage being so low, and charging some prices that are really unbelievable. But of course, these are geared towards those that are working in the oil and gas sector. At the beginning, these will be a lot of foreign folks that have come in that have expertise. But it is always going to be our expectation and our goal as a country to fill as many of those jobs as possible with local Guyanese so that they can be the beneficiaries. Now, I want you to imagine for yourself this. What kind of a job must you have to be able to afford rent of $660,000? Just rent. Got to be making bank, as we youngsters say. You got to be making bank. That is a lot of money. I'm imagining a 3-bedroom might be for a family, as an example. So, in that case, you're talking about someone who has very, very high earning. And that is a great thing. We're happy to see people make money. We want to ensure that it's Guyanese in the medium to long term that will be making this money because, of course, we want to see Guyanese benefit from the oil and gas economy. So that is a very significant, very high rent. And folks, this is in Kitty. This is not in the highest end neighborhood in the country, Degar Park or Sabrianville or something. This is in Kitty. Something to bear in mind. Let's take a look at the next house that we've got today. So here we've got a 2 bedroom in Kitty again. This is for 1,100 a month, so a month, so 220,000 a month, or $110,000 per bedroom. It sounds cheap compared to the last one, right? That's a great deal. That is disturbing when something that is $110,000 per bedroom is a great deal. That is disturbing. So that is a 2 bedroom for $220,000. Let's say that you're a single parent and you have a job and you have a child that you want to give a bedroom. Are you going to be able to afford rent of $220,000? No, you're not going to be able to afford that. So excuse me, this is a very concerning thing for the country as a whole. That's some serious rent there. And again, this is in Kitty, so imagine the higher end neighborhoods. That must be something. Let's get the next slide up. Okay, so we've also got a 3 bedroom in Eccles for 3,000 US a month. $1,000 per bedroom, 200,000 Guyana dollars per bedroom. This is now in Eccles. So this is out of town now, along the East Bank, but we're hearing that the East Bank is an area that has a lot of oil and gas activity, or people are being attracted to the area who work in the oil and gas industry. We've spoken before on this show about the shore bases and the impact that those shore bases are going to have. Now, there are going to be 8 shore bases, at least 8, along the Demerara River by itself. Therefore, that is going to be a major economic hub for Guyanese and for oil companies operating in Guyana, whether that's producers or service companies, logistic companies, the actual shore bases themselves. So that area, you're going to see housing prices really high. And of course, it's an area that the land has not been opened up as much as we would like. So it's going to be a situation where the houses there will rise substantially in value unless there's a major change. And even then, the size of the oil and gas industry is likely to have a big impact on prices. So that's what we're seeing already. We're seeing that already in that part of the country, and we expect to see that in the country going forward in many areas. So that's a hefty price. Remember, we don't have a problem with a hefty price. We have a problem if Guyanese are not able to benefit from the jobs that would allow you to pay such a hefty price. That really is more the concern. So we're going to keep that all in mind as we go forward as a country. These are unbelievable prices, and not even in the highest end neighborhoods in the country. So that's how things are going with the housing industry. Let's take the next slide here. But all that aside, we've also got a series of or a particular event that generated a lot of news lately, and that is I guess it's called the Boderation Concert, which was one of the Independence Day celebration, sort of those events related to independence. And that particular concert was one where there was quite a bit of chaos, and there were shots fired. You'll see here on your screen an article by Newsroom speaking about the shots that were fired, and circled in red there is a picture of the gun that was fired. Multiple times this gun was fired, so it's highly concerning. And as a result of being highly concerning, 2 things. One, this has raised serious questions about the security of the event and what the organizers did to secure the event. But also, we saw a second effect, which is that we saw people running and people being very scared and fleeing, which was terribly unfortunate. And no one, when they're going out to have fun, is looking to feel that they're in danger. So that's terrible. But on the flip side of it, Guyanese love to make a joke about everything. So we want to share with you some Guyanese of some people's reactions to what occurred. Just again, we keep it light on this show, but also to highlight how bad things really got on that evening, and maybe to help us to put our minds toward what types of solutions we need to see going forward. So let's get the next slide up. We've got some comments from various folks on Facebook. So the first thing is people are saying that man robbed like they ain't robbed in 2 years for real. So again, there were a lot of allegations of theft on that particular night. I heard of a policeman who had two gold chains that he was relieved of. He and the gold chains parted company. This is a policeman, so you can imagine the ordinary citizen how bad it really got on that night. And I know of other people who have said that their gold chains and them parted ways. This is terribly unfortunate. Terribly unfortunate. Let's get the next slide up. Okay, so there's also a question about gunman. So how are you gonna sing about gunman, and when the gunman come, you run away, folks? Guyanese love to make a joke about everything. Again, this should never have been the case. I don't know how this was able to happen. I would say that we don't really see these types of things under the coalition, but under the PAP, you seem to see some chaos that's quite unbelievable. Let's get the next one up. Okay, so nobody, me in the show when the shot started, is Squibs, right? So this person is expressing disbelief that there could have been a gun involved, and I can understand that. Who again would have expected something like that? But that's what happened. And the fact that it was caught on tape is even more unbelievable. Isn't that crazy? Let's get the next slide up. Okay, so a person is laughing here. All when your phone off, find my iPhone is working. Android people balling right now. So what this means is a lot of people complained, or there were videos indicating that people's phones were stolen. And if you have an iPhone, you can still find the phone. However, Android phones don't typically have that feature. And so if your phone was stolen and it's an Android phone, as the person said, you're balling right now. Folks, this is not what we want in our country. This is not the direction that we want the country to be going in, where if you don't have a certain kind of phone and thief man, as we say in Guyana, thief man, thief your phone, you're out here balling. That's not what we want in Guyana. Let's get the next slide up. Okay, so this one is my personal favorite. Of course, as I say, I always have a pretty dark sense of humor about these things. To the man that boxed my head back when I was running too slow out the park. I ain't forget your brother. Watch your back. So somebody got a thump, as we say, got a thump for running too slow out of the national park from the chaos. My word, this got really out of hand, didn't it? It got really out of hand. But again, we love to joke about everything. And so as a result of that, this person is complaining about somebody boxing his head back, his head back, because he was running too slow. Folks, where is this country going? Where is it going? That people have to have these types of scenarios before them, where people boxing their head back because they're running too slow to escape from the guns that are being fired. What is going on in Guyana? This is the way the PPP intends to run this country. My word, my word, viewers, this is the furthest thing from acceptable. And we really need to see some reform, whether it's the event organizers doing a much better job or the police being much more stringent on these types of days. There's a video circulating of a man being attacked, presumably because he's alleged to have stolen a phone, and the police are there not doing anything about it, but just looking on. And to my knowledge, if someone is alleged that someone stole something, the police are supposed to arrest the party, and if someone is attacking another person, the police are supposed to arrest the people involved because assault, to my knowledge, is against the law. But maybe the police, maybe their shades they were wearing the day were too dark. They weren't able to see that the person in front of them was being assaulted. We don't know. All we can say is that we look forward to an investigation as to what happened there, because everyone is entitled to due course of justice. Even the teeth man are entitled to due course of justice, viewers. So yes, that was a wild, wild show, much wilder than I think people bargained for. And in some of the videos, you can see people actually when the gunshots go off, they express surprise and they duck and they hide. They weren't expecting that. So that's let's get the next slide up as we roll on through. Okay, so now there's someone complaining about the price of gas, saying that it has moved from being 5,500 to actually fill your tank to being over $8,000 to fill the tank. This is tough. This is tough. And we've recently heard that the excise tax has been lowered as far as it can be lowered. So we're going to have to put up with these higher prices. Put up with these higher prices. That is difficult. But of course, I would like to gently remind you, viewers, Guyana is an oil producer, so we're benefiting from these higher prices. Has the government taken steps to redistribute these benefits appropriately so that the population can benefit more broadly? There is a national budget, of course, and that does have cost of living mitigation measures. But that budget was crafted, I'm sure you know, viewers, before the war in Ukraine, before the spike in oil prices as a result of the war in Ukraine. So all the measures that have been taken now are measures that would have been taken if we didn't have this spike in price. What does this mean, viewers? It means that no measures whatsoever have been taken to help to deal with, to address this massive cost, increase in the cost of living because of the Ukraine war. So as much as you're seeing some efforts to combat cost of living, just keep in mind that those efforts have nothing to do with the current situation, because no one could have known that there would be a war in Ukraine, and the government has not responded by allocating any fresh funds. So they have just decided largely to ignore the fact that there is a massive increase in the cost of living, and we're seeing this reflected now in the price that people are paying at the pump. So a little bit of a blunder there by the government, I would say. So that's something that is, again, very concerning, and we need to see more robust action to deal with these really difficult prices that people are facing. Let's get the next slide up. So now we've got a shortage of potato. We heard recently about a shortage of chicken. Again, these are things that the ordinary person eats, that average people need every day to consume. This is very difficult circumstances, and we need to see more stringent action. Let's get the next slide up. Okay, so finally, you've got a meme here. When you finally make it to middle class, so you've improved in your standing in life, and inflation gets so high, it bumps you right back down to lower class. So the idea being that some people may be doing a little bit better, but because the cost of living has gone up so much, their standard of living, their lives have actually gotten worse in the past few years rather than better. And that's something that we alluded to in our last press conference, is that under the PDP, things have actually gotten worse for the average person rather than better. There hasn't been an increase in there hasn't been an increase in the public sector wages that has really kept pace properly with inflation. It's barely kept pace, whereas it really needed to be ahead of that. There hasn't been any kind of a proper redistribution of the benefits of the oil and gas industry. Rather, we've seen those benefits kind of accrue to the government and not be redistributed in any way that is useful really to the average Guyanese, which is very concerning again. And so, as much as some people may see a little bit of progress in their life, blink twice and the progress is gone. It's gone, folks. That's what we're seeing, and it's highly unfortunate that that's the environment that we're in. Viewers, I take this opportunity to remind you that Guyana is an oil producer. Did you know, viewers, that Guyana is an oil producer and is benefiting from some of the highest prices of for oil that we've seen in years and years? Did you know that, viewers? We have got to put more pressure on the government to act more, to redistribute some of these benefits so that people, especially people on the lower end of the income scale, but everyone, can see themselves benefit rather than the benefits not filtering through the economy. So that is something that is highly concerning, and something that sadly we've not seen proper efforts to address. We've not seen that at all. So there you go, viewers. Those are your memes of the week. Always interesting to see what people are saying about the day's issues. Always interesting, even if those people are saying that they're putting out a warning to the man who boxed the head back last time that that they're looking for him. I don't know if the person remembers what the person looks like who boxed his head back, but uh, anyway, so viewers, we've gone over what the hilarity of the sad hilarity of what's going on in the country with cost of living and with these chaotic events. But now we're gonna talk a bit about the way that some of the things that former President Forrest Burnham would have mentioned when he was in office and leading the country through the independence period, and that that should give you some food for thought. So again, these have become quite popular, and it raises the question in our minds as to whether we've missed some of the positives that he had tried to put forward, rather focusing on things that or rather not understanding the true value of a lot of what he was saying. And that is very unfortunate if we didn't grasp the full value. So now we can kind of look back at it and say, well, some of these things were quite useful. So some of the concepts I think that have come forward lately, have been more prominent lately, are one, that it's self-sufficiency is important. When it comes to things like agriculture, we need to be producing enough to always satisfy our population's needs. Otherwise, we'll end up importing more expensive foods and so on. So we need to be able to satisfy the food needs of the country. I think there's a strong argument for that. There's an emphasis following that on agriculture as a major driver for the economy. That's something that can really push Guyana's economy forward, an emphasis on having growing production and producing more the products and producing different types of things. That's going to be something that's really interesting, especially if we're looking to export those. There's a lot of talk about exporting to the Caribbean, and that's something that is important to think. Guyana used to be the breadbasket of the Caribbean, or thought of as the breadbaskets. That's something that we want to see come forward. There's also an ideology or thinking around local content, which is good. Foreign companies buying from local producers and employing local people to carry out tasks. This was something that was emphasized on the Burnham, and is something that has come to prominence again as we look at these oil and gas companies and we try to get the best value for Guyanese out of the oil that we are all blessed to have on our shores. Additionally, there's also the question of the rights of local individuals versus the rights of international corporations, and finding the right balance so that we can get the maximum benefit, again, for Guyanese, but also so that Guyanese feel that they are in the driver's seat, that they are properly respected, that they are partners in the growth of the country, rather than the passerby or the onlookers of the growth, growth that may be passing them right on by. So that's something that we've emphasized with our people-centered vision within the PNCR. We want to ensure that everyone understands that you are a partner in the development of our country. That's what you are, a partner. And as a result, you will be benefit as well as the country grows. It's not just going to be one group that benefits. We're going to ensure that the country more broadly is able to benefit. That's the way that we intend to run the country when we are in office. When we are in office. Okay, so one of the things that I think is useful for us to talk a bit about, to get some perspective on, is that these types of ideals, which are quite patriotic in nature, tend to yield policies from a certain school of thought. And we in Guyana, I think if I asked many Guyanese if they could categorize Burnham's policies as a type of policy, whether they could put them into some sort of framework. And I don't think most Guyanese can, but those policies broadly come under a framework that was very popular in Latin America at the time, 70s and 80s and so on, and eventually led to a difficult period in Latin America and Guyana as well, because there are some areas that were good and some areas that they could have been improved. And so we'll talk a bit about that. But that they generally fall under the heading of import substitution industrialization. Fancy name. ISI is what we economists call it. But basically, import substitution industrialization. And I'll give you just a quick, just read from an article that gives a basic definition of it, and just so you get a bit of a sense, it and the history of it. Import substitution industrialization is an economic theory adhered to by developing countries that wish to viewers to decrease their dependence on developed countries. Sounds like Burnham right there, eh? ISI targets the protection and incubation of newly formed domestic industries to fully developed sectors so the goods produced are competitive with imported goods. Okay? Despite some apparent gains, however, import substitution was both unsustainable over time and produced high economic and social costs. This is what one writer has said about it. Given import substitution's dependence upon its developed and isolated markets within Latin America and the Caribbean, it relied upon growth of a market that was limited in size. So you take the example of tapirs, which is the vehicle that was locally produced. Now, while that may have been a good vehicle, whether you can actually sell enough of those vehicles to really make for a proper product when you're relying on the Guyanese market to get you off the ground, at least to a certain extent, that is very much in doubt, very much in doubt. So the small size of the market was a limitation of these policies. By the 1960s, it was evident that import substitution policies, particularly in Latin America and South Asia, were leading to highly protected and inefficient domestic industries, in addition to stifling exports and reducing foreign exchange earnings. We'll also recall that Guyana had its difficulties with foreign exchange earnings during that period and foreign exchange shortages and so on. By the 1960s, ISI strategies were seen to have significant drawbacks. Although results varied from country to country, as of course economic policies always vary from country to country, general trends included production that often did not extend into industries other than consumer goods, slow employment growth, agricultural sector decline, and minimal productivity growth. So the first thing that I want to make sure we contextualize, and this is an important one around the Burnham conversation, is this. A lot of his economic policies were not just policies that he alone was putting forward or that Guyanese alone were practicing, but policies that across the entire region, or policy philosophy that across the entire region was being used. And so I think when people lay criticism of Burnham's policies, it's important to understand that this is something that many people were doing. So it's not unique. The negatives are not somehow unique to Burnham or it's his problem or he did something negative. It's something that more broadly was being practiced and something that has been improved upon since then. So I think we need to dispel the myth that people sometimes say, oh, it's all Burnham's fault and so on. I think that is a highly problematic view and a view that does not reflect an understanding of the history and of what was going on around Guyana and all the other countries essentially around Guyana. So let's put that aside as a first note. Additionally, though, what you can say is a way that we can improve upon, and this is something that I think will be a big part of the future, in Guyana, is that we need to, as much as possible, focus on productivity, focus on competitiveness and competitive advantage, because while it may seem good to produce more, it is not always good. It is good to produce more of things that are profitable and that will be profitable over the long run. So more for the sake of more is not the way to run the economy, but more profit and more profit, especially in the long term. That's the way to run the economy. We want to ensure that the businesses are profitable. And the best way to ensure the businesses are profitable, especially over the long run, is to ensure that they're productive. So they produce a lot based off of a relatively small amount of inputs. So they produce a lot based off of having relatively small amounts of fuel and other things involved. That is to say that they can keep the costs down while being able to sell at a high price, especially when we're exporting. That will allow us to have profitable businesses, and indeed businesses that will be giant in size and propel our economy over the long term, so that we're always able to have a successful economy even after oil is gone. So it is not just about producing more. It's not just about growing more. It's about growing more efficiently. It is about adding value. It is about making more profit for our companies so that our government can get more tax revenue, so that our citizens can benefit, so that the country can be more wealthy and wealthy in a sustained way. And so that often necessitates a bit of a focus. You can't produce everything. Rather, you should focus on the areas where you are good and you produce a lot. I always give the example of, you look at Guyana's rum. We have the best rum. It wins awards all the time. But is it the best selling rum? That it is not. We look at Banks beer as another example. I like Banks beer. It's the best beer I've personally tasted. I prefer it based off of all the other beers that I've tasted. Is it the best selling beer in the world? No, it is not. So it's things like that. I'm just singling out two products. There could be a wide range of products when you talk about pepper, when you talk about other jams and so on produced. We, as much as possible, need to ensure that our products that are good products are produced at a big enough scale that we're lowering the costs, and we're exporting and producing these things in a way where we can get high profits for our corporations, get high tax revenue, and make people in the country wealthy, as well as create a lot of employment. So it's not just about producing more, it's about what you produce. And as an example, producing a locally produced car, again, that's probably an example of something that might not succeed. But I submit to you that many of the alcohols that we produce locally are some of the best anywhere. So a wide variety of them would likely succeed in many markets and do really well. So it's about keeping those things in mind. It's about keeping those things in mind. Viewers, we're gonna actually have a short video now, and actually we want to do a video of some of Forbes Burnham's statements. So a video about of his Mashramani statement, and we're gonna use that as a way for us to kind of frame the conversation as we talk a bit about some of the changes that we're going to make, or rather improvements to build upon some of these policies to really get the best out of them, rather than seeing any of the negatives that many countries saw. So let's play that video of Burnham's speaking at, and it's always entertaining to hear him speak. So let's play that video.
Comrades, fellow Guyanese, 9 years ago, we Guyanese made the final and decisive assertion of our political and psychological independence by completely severing the remaining constitutional links with the colonial power. For us, the coming into being of the Cooperative Republic was the logical culmination of the struggle for independence, initiated over 200 years ago by our national hero, Coffee, at Magdalenenburg in Berbice. But, as I have always emphasized, political independence is not an end in itself. Rather, it represents an opportunity to create a society in which all citizens are assured of social and economic justice. The People's National Congress at all times recognized that the process of transforming the society, which process will be given new impetus and momentum with the promulgation later this year of the new Constitution, was not going to be an easy task, and that the path ahead would be strewn with many obstacles. the PNC, as the party in government, never attempted to delude the Guyanese people about the sacrifices which would be demanded of all of us as we moved in unison to free our country from poverty, want, hate, fear, and foreign domination. The process of nation building and societal transformation is never easy. You, for instance, in North America, would do well to acquaint yourselves with the hardships and privations which went into making the United States the world's richest and most powerful country today. At the moment in Guyana, we are going through a period of difficulty. This is not peculiar to us, but is the common, unfortunate lot of most, if not all, of the non-oil producing developing countries. Indeed, even the developed countries, and many of you can personally attest to this, have not escaped the effects of the worldwide crisis. But for all the problems being experienced at home, and which you have most certainly heard about, development has not stagnated. For example, last year witnessed the initiation of massive ventures like the Tapakuma scheme, $103 million, the Mahaika-Maikoni-Abari scheme, $200 million, the Upper Demerara River Forestry Project, $76 million, and the Blackbush Polar Extension, $115 million. It was the year also of the completion of the Kanji Bridge and that dream of the Demerara River Bridge, which many of us had despaired of seeing in our lifetime. During this year, it is expected, among other things, that work will commence on the erection of a solvent plant for extracting oil from rice bran, and also that there will be the manufacture on a large commercial scale of byproducts like vinegar and yeast from molasses. Just a few days ago, your government released the Guyana Investment Code, which, as its name implies, sets out the guidelines for investing in Guyana. It is a document which all of you should scrutinize and popularize, and one which, by setting out clearly and unequivocally the government's policy in this area, should hopefully answer many questions and set clear parameters. Sure, we have had and will continue to have difficulties. And of course there was Jonestown. But we are confronting these issues and problems with a grit, determination, and intensity which daily suggests that we shall overcome. Finally, let me assure you that your government considers you to be very much part of Guyana and welcomes you home. Indeed, invites you to join in the exciting, though demanding task of development and nation building. As we celebrate the 9th anniversary of the Cooperative Republic, I feel confident that you must realize that you have a motherland of which you can be proud, and which at all times offers you a hospitable and receptive embrace. Happy Mashramani.
Okay, good to hear those words from former President Burnham. Lot to unpack, lot of interesting messages in there, very deep messages. As I said, I believe he was a flawed genius. He was one of the most interesting and important historical figures in Guyana. And so, that was definitely a message that had a lot in it. I would say two things that jumped out at me are, one, him speaking about an oil crisis. Again, we're in another oil crisis here, with the oil price high. But unlike in Burnham's years, we're producing oil. We're not just on the back end of it. So I invite Guyanese to recall that we could have had the misfortune of not having found any oil in Guyana and having to deal with these high oil prices without any support from being a producer ourselves. So we should remember always that anything that the government does to mitigate the cost of living when it comes to the oil price should be something that is more, should be something that is more than they would have done if we were not producing oil. Right? Let's not settle for the lower standards of before. We are producing now. Let's not settle for actions that would have been taken if we were not producing oil. And as far as I can tell, the only actions that have been taken are actions that could have been taken even if we were not producing oil. There has not been a robust effort to boost things in a way that they really need to be boosted. I think also what was interesting is he mentioned the way that there's a psychological element, and the way that there's an importance of ensuring that the national resources are benefit the people of the country. And as much as we want to work closely with international corporations, we must ensure that Guyanese feel comfortable always with these relationships and do what we can to help them to understand the relationships a bit better and to benefit as much as they can. So that's where the local content legislation and local content activities really comes in and becomes a critical part of the country's future. So again, those are very interesting insights. What we would say to build on or to improve on some of the policies and the insights that came from Burnham is that we need an emphasis in this country on productivity, there is nothing wrong, and indeed we welcome companies in Guyana making huge profits. We want them to be productive. That will give us more tax revenue, employ citizens, and we're happy if other citizens are able to benefit as well from ownership of companies and so on. We want businesses to be productive. We, of course, want to have growth that everyone can benefit from. But it is important for us to have a sustained economy, a sustainable level of growth, for us to have productive businesses. So we will revive some of the Burnham policies, such as a national productivity, a national bank to help to fund businesses to expand with lower interest rates. But we will do this through the lens of productivity. That is going to be a big emphasis within the PNC. And so any efforts we take to help businesses expand will have in mind always the language of productivity, and we'll have a range of measures to help to build that productivity across the economy. That way, we will be able to not only benefit from producing more, but benefit from producing more in a sustainable way and avoid some of the drawbacks that came from the ISI policies, which many countries across the Caribbean and Latin America had difficulties with. We are going to build and improve upon, rather than repeating areas or policy approaches that were not quite appropriate. We'll do a much better job than that, because we have a better and deeper understanding of many of these policies, with a focus always on productivity. So that is something that we want to help you to appreciate as viewers, that's the direction that the PNCR is going, and that will really boost the economy and ensure sustainable growth long after oil is gone. Apart from that, we've come to the last few minutes of the show, so I want to just provide a little bit of the advice to viewers, but also to young people regarding how we should, some of the things that are going on in our economy and how we should look at them. And one important thing is that whereas inequality is a vital issue that the PNCR intends to combat, it has not been listed as a policy priority by the government at all. Rather, they've left inequality, reducing inequality out of their plans for the future. And that must be very concerning for you as a young person, because if you're not able to benefit from an educational opportunity to get a job in the oil and gas sector or another high-paying job, if you don't have assets such as a house in your name, you're going to be in a very difficult position in this country, because the cost of living will continue to go up. You'll see rents continue to go up, and that will be very difficult. So you need to keep as much as possible a focus in your mind on inequality to ensure that you are able to benefit from the growth of the country, from the things that you are by rights entitled to, part of the national patrimony. Recall that the oil belongs to all of us, not just to the ones who have businesses. It belongs to all of us. So we want everyone to be able to grow and our country to grow and become wealthy, us together to become wealthy. So that's something that I think you should really keep in mind, because there are countries where young people complain bitterly about their inability to afford a home, inability to live. Even countries like South Korea and places like Hong Kong, where you would think they're doing quite well, their economy is booming, or they're making lots of money, they have high wages, but young people complain bitterly about the circumstances. So you need to keep a close eye on this, because what may happen if you don't keep a close eye on it is that as much as the country grows, you find it harder and harder to succeed, harder and harder to have a comfortable life. And that is not what we want for you. That is not what the PNCR is advocating. On the other end of that, we may also see an increase in petty crime and gangs even, because as there's an increase in inequality, as the cost of living rises, as people are put under more and more financial strain, you may see desperate crimes increase. So that's something to be very aware of, the possibility of an increase in desperate crime. And of course, the Botheration concert that we started the show talking about is an example of an increase in petty crime. And I don't even want to call it petty, but in theft and robbery and so on. So this is something that you should be very anxious about in the future, because as we see the economy grow, as we see incomes rise in certain sectors, if we do not train broad swaths of the society, if we do not open broad swaths of the society to opportunity, we're going to see a lot more of this. We in the PNCR have put forward proposals such as salary top-ups, which include the condition that if you have children, your children should finish high school as one of the conditions. We've included that because we want to ensure that everyone is able to get an opportunity to get a high-paying job. That's the name of the game in many ways. We want everyone to get a chance, not just those who are well-connected, not just those who know someone within PvP or something to that effect, but we want everyone to get access to these high-paying jobs. That's the way that it should be. That's the way that I think everyone who has Guyana at their heart really wants it to be, and that's the type of country that we want to build. So from that perspective, young people, keep your eyes open, because if we allow things to drift along, we may end up in a situation where you are finding it very difficult, and some people are even complaining right now, very difficult to own a home, very difficult to make ends meet. That's not what we want to see. We've already started to see it. That needs to come to an end, and we need to see more inclusive growth across this country. Viewers, we've come to the end of yet another Lowdown. I hope you had a good time with us tonight. I hope you had a laugh. I hope you learned a bit. I hope you got a sense of the trajectory that the PNCR will be looking to push the economy, and how we can learn and build from the past while also appreciating improvements and adjustments that we can make. I want you to say have a good rest of your Saturday night. Thank you for starting it on a high here with Elson Low, and we will catch you next week.
Thank you for watching our program. See you right back here, same place, same time. And remember, hold the line of battle, comrades. Our victory is sure.